This is my true story. I thought I knew everything about my wife. We shared a home, a life, and memories built over 30 years. Every month she said she was sending money to her brother. I never asked questions. I trusted her because love makes you believe there are no secrets. But one day, my trust broke into pieces. I went to meet this brother myself, and when he opened the door, he looked me in the eye and called me Dad. My whole world stopped. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me where you're watching from, and please subscribe so my story can reach more people. Every month my wife said the same thing. I'm sending some money to my brother. She said it so casually, like it was nothing. I never questioned it. I thought she was just helping her family, and that made me proud of her. I liked that she cared about them. I believed kindness ran deep in her heart. That belief was my mistake. I worked hard for years to make sure our home was stable. My paycheck went straight to our joint account. She handled the bills, the savings, and the rest. I didn't check anything. I trusted her completely. I thought that's what good husbands do. Trust, love, and don't ask too many questions. At the end of every month, I would see a transaction from our account. The amount changed sometimes small, sometimes big, but always to the same name. She said it was her brother. I didn't even know she had another brother besides the one I met at our wedding years ago. When I asked about it once, she said, "He lives far away." We don't talk much, I believed her. She said her brother had a tough life, no steady job, and she wanted to help. I understood. I had grown up poor myself. I knew what it was like to struggle. So I told her to do what she thought was right. I even added extra money sometimes, telling her to send a little more. She smiled and said I was a good man. I didn't know those words would later burn in my mind. Every time I looked at our bank book, I saw those transfers. They didn't bother me. I thought helping family was a sign of good values. My wife never missed 1 month. Even when we had our own financial struggles, she made sure that payment went out first. I admired that loyalty. I said to myself, she takes care of her people. I had no idea how wrong that thought was. Years went by like that. We lived a quiet life. Our son had passed away years before, or so I believed. We didn't talk about him much anymore. The subject was painful, and every time I mentioned him, she got emotional. She would leave the room or start crying. I thought she was still healing, and I didn't want to make her hurt. So I kept my memories of him silent. My wife became more private over time. She guarded her phone, checked messages in another room, and changed the passwords on our accounts. I didn't think much of it. I thought maybe she wanted her own space. We were getting older, and I thought people changed as they aged. I didn't think love could hide secrets. Sometimes I saw her smiling at her phone after sending money. I asked who it was, and she said, "My brother thanked me." That was all. I smiled back and went on with my day. I didn't know that every smile was built on a lie. On holidays, I asked her if she wanted to visit this brother. She always said he was busy or sick or traveling. I stopped asking. She seemed calm after every transfer, like it gave her peace. I thought maybe helping him made her feel connected to family again. I never suspected anything else. I worked, I aged, and I trusted. That was my routine. Love had made me blind, and I didn't even know it. The money kept leaving our account, and I thought it was going to someone who needed it. In reality, it was going somewhere far more painful. When you trust someone for decades, you stop seeing danger. You stop asking questions. You assume that everything they say comes from love. That's how I lived for years, with complete faith in a woman who had stopped being honest a long time ago. It's strange how betrayal doesn't start with a big lie. It starts with small things, tiny stories that sound harmless. You believe them because you want to. And before you realize it, those small lies have already built a wall around the truth. That's what happened to me. My wife wasn't sending money to her brother. She was sending it to someone I didn't know existed, someone who would change everything I believed about my life. My days were simple. I woke up early, made coffee, and went to work. My wife stayed home, managed the bills, and handled everything about money. That was our routine for many years. I trusted her completely. I worked hard and believed she was keeping things in order. I thought our teamwork made us strong. She always said, "Don't worry, I'll take care of the accounts." I listened. I never checked anything. I felt proud that I had a wife who was organized and responsible. She paid the bills on time, kept receipts and folders, and balanced everything. I thought she was doing it for us. Every month she would remind me when my paycheck came in. She would write a list of what needed to be paid: rent, utilities, insurance, food, and one more thing: money for her brother. She said it like it was normal, like it was part of our family expenses. I nodded every time. I thought that helping her brother was the right thing to do. At first, I didn't even look at the transfers. I just signed where she told me to sign. She would say, "He's going through a tough time." I never asked more. I believed her because that's what trust means. You don't question someone you love. Over time, the habit became automatic. Every month, a part of our money went to her brother. It was just another line in the book. She would say it softly during dinner or while washing dishes. I didn't think much of it. I thought family should always help each other. I worked long hours. Sometimes I came home tired, ate, and went straight to bed. She handled the rest. I thought we were a good team. I thought I was lucky. Sometimes she would go out to visit her brother. She said he was too shy to come around, didn't like meeting new people. I found it strange that he never showed up at birthdays or holidays, but I didn't want to sound suspicious. I told myself, maybe that's just how he is. Maybe he doesn't like crowds. I didn't notice how often she was leaving the house. Once a month became twice, then 3 times. Each time she said she was going to check on her brother. I believed her. I didn't follow, didn't ask. I didn't want to be the kind of husband who doubts his wife. When friends came over and asked about her family, she always said her brother was doing fine now, that he was finally getting better. I didn't know what better meant. Maybe his life was improving. I never met the man, never spoke to him, but I thought if she was happy helping him, then I should be happy too. She handled everything with such calmness that I never thought twice. I saw the transfers on the bank statement, but didn't care. I thought that's what love looked like. Trust without control. Years passed in that same routine. I worked, she sent money, and life moved on. Our conversations grew smaller, our time together less. But I thought that's normal in long marriages. People grow quiet, busy, older. I never thought the quiet could be hiding something. Looking back now, I see how easy it was to miss the signs. The passwords that changed, the papers she kept in a locked drawer, the sudden calls she took outside, the way she ended conversations when I entered the room. At that time, I thought she just wanted privacy. I didn't realize privacy had become secrecy. Every month, the same money left our account, and I thought nothing of it. I believed she was doing something good, something kind. I didn't know that behind those transactions was a lie that would destroy everything I believed about love, trust, and family. I kept working, kept earning, kept trusting. That was my routine. She kept sending money, kept smiling, kept lying. That was hers. When you live with someone for so long, you stop questioning small things. You think you know them completely. You think love means never checking behind the curtain. But sometimes, that curtain hides a truth so deep that it can erase everything you thought your life was. Over the years, my wife began to change. She was still kind on the surface, still smiling, still gentle, but something deeper in her had shifted. She started to avoid conversations about the past, especially about our son. Whenever I mentioned his name, she would tense up. Her eyes would fill with tears, and she would say, "Please, don't talk about it." I thought she was still hurting. I thought time had not healed her. I didn't realize that her pain was not grief, it was guilt. After our son's supposed accident, she became quiet. She didn't want to look at his photos or visit his grave. I used to visit often, but she never came with me. She said it was too painful, that seeing his name on a stone broke her heart. I respected that. I never forced her to go. I thought maybe people grieve differently. Maybe she needed distance to survive. But as time passed, the distance between us grew. We stopped laughing together. We stopped planning things. She spent more time on her phone, more time away from home. I didn't complain. I just told myself, she needs space. I believed that giving her space was a way of showing love. But really, I was letting her build a life behind my back. At night, I noticed her sitting alone, staring at her phone screen with a soft smile. When I asked what she was looking at, she would say, "Just family messages." I trusted her. I had no reason not to. I never imagined that those messages were connected to something she was hiding from me. Something about our son. I remember one night clearly. I had asked her about the accident, something I rarely did. I wanted to know how she managed to stay so strong after losing him. Her reaction shocked me. She turned cold, defensive, almost angry. She said I was trying to reopen old wounds. I apologized immediately. I didn't want to hurt her. I just wanted to remember him together, like parents should. That was the last time we ever spoke about him. After that, she kept her distance. She became careful with her words. She avoided eye contact when we talked about anything personal. She slept facing the other side of the bed, her back turned to me. I told myself it was age, or maybe stress. I never thought it could be something darker. On weekends, she would say she was visiting her mother or her brother. She always left early and came back late. I offered to drive her a few times, but she refused. She said she didn't want to trouble me. I accepted it. I wanted to be a good husband, the kind who trusted his wife completely. But something inside me started to feel uneasy. I couldn't explain it. It wasn't jealousy or suspicion. It was confusion. The woman I married was slipping away, and I didn't understand why. She smiled less around me but laughed when she read messages on her phone. She looked tired, but it wasn't the tiredness of age. It was the tiredness of hiding something. I began to notice little things. She changed passwords on her accounts. She took calls outside the house. When I asked who it was, she said, "Family," or "work." I wanted to believe her, so I did. Every lie was wrapped in a truth I had already accepted. Sometimes she would disappear for hours and come back with excuses. I stopped by the grocery store, or I met a friend. I stopped asking questions. I thought if I trusted her enough, everything would be okay. I didn't know that my silence was giving her more space to lie. I missed the woman I married. I missed the warmth, the laughter, the feeling that we were a team. Now we were just two people living in the same house, pretending that everything was fine. I didn't know the truth yet, but my heart already sensed something was wrong. I just couldn't see what it was. I never imagined that the same woman I was protecting, comforting, and loving for decades was protecting someone else. Someone who wasn't supposed to exist in our story anymore. Someone she called her brother, but who was really the truth she had buried under lies. One night, I couldn't sleep. Something kept bothering me. I looked at my wife lying next to me, her face calm, her breathing steady. She looked peaceful, but I felt restless. For the first time in years, I felt like I didn't know who she was anymore. I turned to the other side, but sleep wouldn't come. My mind kept replaying all the little things I had ignored for years. The phone calls, the secret smiles, the excuses. They suddenly didn't feel harmless anymore. The next morning, she went out early again. She said she was going to send money to her brother. I watched her leave, my heart heavy. When she was gone, I sat down and looked at our bank book. I had never done that before. I turned the pages slowly. Every month, same transfer, same name. It wasn't a big amount, but it was consistent. I noticed that the name on the record didn't match her family's last name. It was close, but different. Something about it felt wrong. I opened her drawer and looked through the papers. I knew it wasn't right, but I needed answers. There were receipts, envelopes, and old letters. Most of them looked normal, but one envelope had that same name written on it. I pulled it out. It was a receipt from a bank, proof of a transfer she had made months ago. The same name again. My hands started to shake. Why would she send money to someone who wasn't really her brother? When she came home that day, I acted normal. I didn't say anything, but my mind wouldn't stop thinking. I couldn't concentrate on anything. I felt a mix of fear and confusion. What if she was in trouble? What if someone was blackmailing her? Or worse, what if she was hiding something big? The next few days, I started paying more attention. I watched how she typed on her phone, how she smiled when messages came in. I noticed she always deleted her chat history. Every time she made a transfer, she closed her laptop quickly. I began to feel a knot in my stomach. I didn't want to accuse her without proof, but I couldn't keep pretending nothing was wrong. I decided to ask her casually about her brother one evening. I said, "How is he doing these days?" Her reaction was strange. She froze for a second before answering. Then she said he was fine and changed the subject quickly. She didn't even look at me when she spoke. That's when my doubt grew stronger. That night, I lay awake again. I thought about our son. I thought about the day we buried him. The way she cried, the way she pushed everyone away after that. Something about her grief had always felt heavy, almost like she was hiding more than pain. I remembered how she didn't let me see his body at the hospital. She said it was too damaged, that I shouldn't remember him like that. I accepted her words back then, but now, after all these years, those memories felt different. The next morning, I went to the bank myself. I asked to see the transaction details. The clerk gave me a printed sheet. I looked at the address linked to the account. It wasn't the address of any relative I knew. My heart started pounding. I memorized the address and left the bank with shaking hands. All day, I couldn't focus. I looked at that address over and over again. I tried to think of reasons. Maybe it was someone else who needed help. Maybe she didn't want to worry me. I wanted to believe the best, but deep down, I knew the truth was darker. When she came home that evening, she looked tired but calm. She smiled at me like nothing was wrong. I smiled back, pretending to believe her, but inside, I was preparing myself. I knew I couldn't live with this doubt anymore. I had to know the truth. So I made a decision. The next time she sent money, I would follow it. I would find out who this brother really was. I didn't care how painful it would be. I just needed to see the truth with my own eyes, even if it destroyed everything I thought I knew about my wife and my life. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise. I didn't tell my wife where I was going. She thought I was heading to work early, but I had already taken the day off. I needed answers, and I couldn't wait any longer. I took the small paper with the address from my wallet. My hands were trembling as I looked at it again. The letters felt heavy, like they carried the truth I wasn't ready to face. I drove across town, far from the streets I usually went through. The address led me to a quiet neighborhood on the edge of the city. The houses were small, old, but clean. Children played outside, dogs barked in the distance. It didn't look dangerous, it looked ordinary. But my heart was racing. I kept thinking, what am I going to find here? I parked the car near a small house with a faded blue door. The number matched the one on the paper. My heart pounded so hard that I could hear it in my ears. I sat there for a few minutes, just staring. I almost turned around. A part of me still hoped it was all a misunderstanding. Maybe it really was her brother. Maybe I was just being foolish. But something stronger pushed me to step out of the car. I walked to the gate slowly. My hands were sweating. The morning air was cool, but I could feel heat rising inside me. I pressed the doorbell once. Nothing happened. I waited a few seconds, then pressed it again. The door opened. A young man stood there. He couldn't have been more than 20. He looked healthy, confident, and somehow familiar. For a moment, I forgot why I was there. There was something in his eyes that made my stomach twist. He looked like someone I knew. Not exactly, but close enough to shake me. I opened my mouth to say something, but no words came out. My throat felt dry. He looked at me with confusion, then curiosity. He asked who I was. I tried to answer, but before I could, I heard a voice from inside the house. A woman's voice. My wife's voice. My body froze. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. It felt like the ground under me had disappeared. The young man turned his head and shouted toward the inside, "Mom, someone's here." Then he looked back at me, and that's when he said it. Just one word. Dad. That single word hit me harder than anything in my life. I felt dizzy, like the world had stopped spinning. My heart felt like it had broken open inside my chest. For a few seconds, everything around me went silent. I could hear my own breathing, short and heavy. My wife came to the door then. She saw me and turned pale. Her hands started shaking. I saw fear in her eyes. Not fear of me, but fear of the truth finally standing in front of her. I looked from her to the young man again, and in that instant, I knew. I didn't need anyone to explain. I could see it in his face. I could see it in hers. The brother wasn't her brother. He was our son, the same boy I thought I had buried years ago. My wife had lied. She had kept him hidden, alive, and she had built a secret life with him, away from me. The money she sent every month wasn't charity, it was support. She had been sending our money to our own son. The one she told me was gone. I felt weak. My knees almost gave out. My wife started crying, but I couldn't hear her words. My head was full of noise, so many years of confusion, pain, and guilt. All of it turned into shock. I wanted to speak, to shout, but nothing came out. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't be angry yet. I couldn't even think straight. I just stood there, staring at the boy who called me Dad. The son I had mourned for years was standing in front of me, alive, because of the woman who had lied to me all this time. When he called me Dad, everything inside me froze. My heart stopped for a moment. I looked at him carefully, trying to find a mistake, something to tell me that I had heard wrong. But no, I hadn't. His face, his eyes, his voice, it was all there. He looked like me when I was younger. There was no denying it. He wasn't a stranger. He was my son. I stood there, not moving. My hands were shaking, my throat dry, my chest heavy. I couldn't even blink. My mind went blank, but my heart remembered everything. His birth, his first steps, his laughter, the day of the accident. The memory of the hospital, the coffin, the funeral. All of it came rushing back like a storm. I had buried an empty box. I had cried over a lie. He looked confused, but I could see he wasn't scared. He looked at me with eyes that searched for something, recognition, maybe love. I didn't know what to do. I didn't move closer. I just stared. Then, behind him, I saw her, my wife, the woman I had trusted for most of my life. She looked pale, shaking, her eyes wide with fear. She didn't say a word. She didn't need to. The truth was written on her face. The story I never knew was standing right in front of me. She had lied to me about our son, lied that he was dead, lied for years while I grieved, while I broke down inside. And all this time, she had been taking care of him behind my back. I tried to speak, but my voice cracked. I asked nothing. I didn't need answers yet. The truth itself was enough to break me. She reached out, but I stepped back. I couldn't look at her. My heart was torn between anger, relief, and unbearable sadness. My son was alive, but my wife had buried him in lies. The boy, my son, stood there, still looking at me, still trying to understand who I was. He said again, softer this time, "Dad." That word hit me like a knife and a hug at the same time. I wanted to hold him, but I couldn't move. My body felt locked between joy and pain. I looked at my wife again. She finally spoke, her voice trembling. She said things I barely heard. I only caught pieces. I had to. You were angry. I was scared. None of it made sense. None of it could fix what she had done. For years, I had cried for a son I thought was gone. I had stood alone at his grave every birthday, every year, talking to the air, thinking he was under the ground. I had asked God why he took him from me. But now I knew. It wasn't God. It was her. She had taken him away. I felt something inside me break quietly. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I just stood there, feeling the years of love, trust, and faith fall apart one by one. Every memory of my wife, every moment we shared, now looked different. Every tear she cried for our son was fake. Every word of comfort she gave me was a lie. I turned to my son again. He was still watching me. He looked lost. I could see confusion in his eyes. Maybe she had told him things about me. Maybe she said I was cruel or dangerous. I didn't blame him. He didn't know me. He only knew the version of me she had created. I wanted to explain. I wanted to tell him that I had never stopped loving him, that I had never given up on him. But I couldn't find the words. My voice was trapped inside my chest. I just stood there, tears rolling down my face. He didn't move either. We both stood frozen between two lives, one built on love, one built on lies. In that moment, I realized something painful. I had lost my wife long ago, the day she decided to hide the truth. And now, even though I had found my son, I didn't know if I could ever get him back fully. So much time had been stolen from us. Years that no money, no apology, no love could replace. I stood there frozen. My wife's face was pale, her lips shaking. She looked at me like she had seen a ghost. But I was the one who felt dead inside. My whole world had turned upside down in one moment. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. My son was alive, and the woman I loved had lied about it for years. I took a step back. The air felt heavy. The sounds around me disappeared. My wife started talking fast, crying, trying to explain. I didn't hear most of it. My ears rang with one word. Dad. That single word from my son replayed in my head like a broken record. It hurt more than anything I had ever felt. She said she was scared. Scared of what I might do when the accident happened. Scared that I would blame her. She said she wanted to protect him. But none of it made sense. Protect him from what? From me? From his own father? I had loved that boy more than life itself. I would have given anything to save him. But she never gave me that chance. I remembered the day of the crash. The police officer's voice, the hospital, the small coffin at the funeral, the sympathy from neighbors. The endless nights I sat awake crying while she said nothing. I thought she was grieving quietly. But now I knew she was living another life in secret, keeping our son hidden from me. I looked at my son again. He stood between us, confused. He didn't know who to believe. I could see it in his eyes. She had told him stories about me. I could feel it. Maybe she told him I was cruel, angry, or dangerous. Maybe she said I didn't want him. I wanted to scream that it was all lies, but I couldn't. My throat felt locked. He looked at her, then back at me. I could see the question in his face. Who is this man? He wanted to trust me, but he didn't know me. How could he? His own mother had erased me from his life. The years we could have spent together, the memories we should have made, they were all gone. My wife stepped closer, crying harder now. She said she couldn't handle the guilt, that she did what she thought was right. Her words didn't reach me. I only saw the truth. Every smile she gave me, every moment of silence after our son's death, every time she held my hand at night, it had all been built on a lie. I felt weak. I leaned against the fence to keep from falling. My eyes blurred with tears. The anger was there, but so was heartbreak. How do you hate the person who gave you your son back, even if it came through betrayal? I didn't know what to feel. My son stepped closer, hesitating. I could see his confusion turning to concern. He looked at me the way a child looks at someone who feels familiar but distant. That look broke me completely. He didn't remember me. He didn't know the nights I stayed awake holding his baby blanket, the birthdays I spent alone at his grave. He didn't know how many times I asked God to trade my life for his. My wife kept saying she wanted to tell me, but she was afraid. Afraid of what it would do to our marriage. Afraid I would never forgive her. I told myself I should be angry. I should yell, scream, demand answers. But I couldn't. The pain was too deep for words. All I could do was stare at the two of them, my family that was supposed to be gone. They were right there, breathing, alive, but everything between us was broken. I had been a husband living with lies and a father grieving a child who wasn't dead. The truth should have brought peace, but all it brought was pain. I wanted to take my son's hand, to tell him everything, but I knew this moment would stay with me forever. The moment I met my son again, and realized I had lost my wife for good. I stood there in silence. My wife tried to talk, but I couldn't listen. The truth came at me in pieces, slow and heavy. She started telling me everything, her voice shaking, her hands covering her face. I just stood still, watching her fall apart and realizing she had already broken me long before that moment. She said the accident wasn't what I was told. The crash was real, but our son wasn't dead. He had been badly hurt, in the hospital for weeks. She said she didn't call me because she was afraid I would blame her for what happened. She said she thought I would hate her for losing control of the car. When the hospital released him, she took him to another town. She didn't tell me. She changed his last name, told him his father didn't want him. She said she did it to protect him from me. I couldn't believe it. I was the man who worked day and night for that boy. I loved him more than my own life. But she had made me the villain in his story. She told me she had lived 2 lives, one with me, a house, a routine, a marriage built on lies, and another one with him, a hidden home, a secret bond, built with my money and her guilt. Every month, the money I earned went to support them, the same money I thought was helping her brother. I couldn't stop shaking, my chest felt tight, my throat burned. Every word she said felt like a knife. The truth was too big to take in at once. She said she wanted to tell me many times, but fear stopped her. She said she didn't know how to fix what she had done. So she kept lying, month after month, year after year, hoping I'd never find out. She said our son had grown up thinking I was the reason they couldn't be together, that I had abandoned them. She said she didn't mean for it to go so far. But it had. Now, the truth had finally come out, and there was no way to take it back. I looked at my son. He stood there, silent, watching both of us. I could see confusion in his eyes, and pain too. He had been living with lies all his life. He didn't know who to believe. The man standing in front of him or the woman who raised him. I wanted to reach out, but I didn't. I didn't want to scare him. My wife fell to her knees, crying. She kept saying she was sorry, but sorry didn't mean anything anymore. Sorry didn't give me back the years I lost. Sorry didn't erase the nights I cried alone thinking my boy was gone. Sorry didn't undo the trust she destroyed. I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask her why. Why she didn't just tell me. Why she thought I would ever hurt the child I loved more than anything. But my voice wouldn't come out. My heart was too heavy. The truth was there, but it felt worse than any lie. I turned away from her and looked at my son again. He stepped forward, unsure, then stopped. We just looked at each other for what felt like forever. His eyes were full of questions, mine were full of pain. I wanted to tell him everything, the truth about me, about her, about love and betrayal. But I couldn't. There were no words strong enough. In that moment, I realized how much a single lie can destroy. Not just a marriage, not just trust, but an entire life. My wife thought she was protecting him, but all she did was take away his right to know his father. She took away my right to watch him grow. She stole our family. The truth didn't set me free. It broke me. It tore everything I believed apart. I stood there with tears running down my face, knowing that even though I had found my son again, I would never get back the years she took from us. Some truths come too late to heal anything. They only leave scars. After that day, nothing felt real anymore. I went home, but it didn't feel like home. Every wall, every photo, every memory felt like a lie. The same rooms where we once laughed were now filled with silence. My wife tried to talk, tried to explain, but I didn't want to hear her voice. The sound of her words hurt more than her silence ever did. I sat in the living room that night, staring at the family photo on the wall. Me, her, and our son. I thought that picture was all I had left after the accident. Now I knew it was proof of the life she stole from me. She walked in quietly, but I didn't look at her. I couldn't. For years, I had lived with the pain of losing my child. I had accepted that pain as part of life. I had carried it with me like a scar that never healed. But now, I realized I had been carrying a lie instead. The pain came back sharper, heavier, deeper. It felt like losing him all over again. But this time, I knew who to blame. She cried for hours. I just sat there, staring at nothing. She said she didn't mean to hurt me, that she was only trying to do what was best. Those words meant nothing. What she called best destroyed everything good in our marriage. In the days that followed, I barely spoke. I didn't eat much. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my son's face, the way he looked at me that day. Confused, unsure, lost between us. I wanted to reach him, to hold him, but I didn't know how. Years of separation stood between us. My wife kept calling him, trying to make him understand. I heard her crying through the door. She said I was angry, that I needed time. She begged him not to hate her. I didn't stop her. I didn't even join the conversation. I had no words left for either of them. The next week, I packed a small bag. I couldn't stay in that house anymore. It wasn't a home. It was a museum of lies. Every corner reminded me of the years she hid the truth from me. I left quietly in the morning while she was asleep. I didn't leave a note. I didn't say goodbye. I just walked away. I rented a small place near the coast. Simple, quiet, empty. It was easier to breathe there. The sound of waves helped me think. For the first few nights, I couldn't stop crying. The silence was loud. I thought about calling my son, but I didn't know what to say. I didn't want to confuse him more. I didn't want to add to his pain. My wife called many times. I never answered. I didn't block her, but I couldn't bring myself to speak to her. Every message she sent started with, "I'm sorry." I didn't need more apologies. I needed truth, but it was too late for that. Days turned into weeks. I went for walks, tried to read, tried to live again. But the thought of my son never left my mind. He was alive, out there, but raised to believe lies about me. That was the hardest part. Knowing he existed but didn't really know who I was. One evening, I got a message. It was from him, just one line. "Can we talk?" My heart jumped. I didn't know what to say. I stared at the message for a long time before replying, "Yes." That was the first time I had felt something like hope again. We met a few days later in a park. He was nervous, and so was I. We didn't talk much at first. We just sat quietly. Then slowly, he asked questions. I answered everything. I told him the truth, all of it. He listened. He didn't cry, but I saw the pain in his eyes. That day didn't fix everything, but it was a start. He was still my son. He always had been. My wife had taken years from us, but she couldn't take that truth away. After that, I never went back home. I left the house, the life, the memories, all behind. Some things can't be rebuilt. Some people you can't forgive, no matter how much you wish you could. I live alone now. The days are quiet. The mornings are long. Sometimes I wake up and forget for a second that everything changed. Then I remember, and the silence in the house reminds me. I make my own coffee, sit by the window, and think about how one lie can destroy a lifetime of truth. I stopped talking to my wife after the divorce. She tried to reach out a few times, but I couldn't answer. There was nothing left to say. Some things break so deeply that no apology can fix them. I didn't hate her. I just didn't trust her anymore. And love without trust is only a shadow. My son visits me sometimes now. At first, he came slowly, like he was unsure. We talked a little each time, sometimes about small things, sometimes about the past. I could see how hard it was for him, too. He had grown up believing a story that wasn't true. He had lived years thinking his father was someone to be feared, not loved. I can't blame him for that. I can only be patient. We're learning to know each other again. He tells me about his life, his job, his friends. I listen. I try not to talk about the past too much. I know it hurts him, and it still hurts me too. But every small step he takes toward me feels like a victory. I lost so much time with him, but at least I have this now. At least I can hear him call me Dad, without fear or confusion. That means more to me than anything. Sometimes, when I walk by the sea, I think about how things could have been different. I think about the day of the crash, the funeral, the years I spent blaming myself for something that never happened. I think about the woman I loved and how fear turned her into someone I didn't recognize. She wasn't evil. she was weak. And weakness can destroy even good people when they choose lies over truth. There are nights when I still dream about my son as a child. In my dreams, he runs toward me, laughing, calling my name. I wake up smiling, but the smile fades fast when I open my eyes. Reality is heavier than dreams, but at least I know he's alive. That's something. I lost everything else, but I got him back. And for me, that's enough. People say time heals all wounds. It doesn't. Some wounds just stop bleeding, but they never close. You learn to live with them. You learn to walk with the limp that pain leaves behind. I've accepted that. I don't expect happiness anymore. I just want peace, and most days, I find a little of it. I work part-time now at a small repair shop. It keeps me busy. It gives me a reason to get out of bed. The people there don't know much about my past. They just know me as an old man who works quietly and keeps to himself. That's how I like it. I don't need pity or stories. I just need calm. My son calls me every Sunday. Sometimes he visits. Sometimes he brings food. Sometimes just a smile. We don't talk about his mother. Maybe one day we will, but not yet. For now, we talk about simple things. Weather, work, life. Every word feels like a small piece of healing. When I look at him now, I see the man he became. Strong, kind, confused at times, but good. He didn't get that from lies. He got it from truth. And even though I missed years of his life, I'm proud of him. He reminds me that love can survive even the worst betrayal. Sometimes, I still ask myself why she did it. Maybe I'll never understand. Maybe some questions aren't meant to be answered. But one thing I know for sure. Truth always finds a way out. You can bury it, hide it, even kill a part of yourself to keep it secret. But one day, it shows up at your door and calls you Dad. I lost a wife, but I found my son again. I lost my trust, but I found my strength. And though my heart still carries pain, it also carries peace. Because now I live with the truth, and that finally is enough.